Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to England once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. Now, these guys are a very well established and very well respected name in the English craft beer scene, but it's been maybe about 2 years since I last reviewed a beer from them. But if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they are pretty solid all round. I've tried quite a few different styles from them over the years and they've always been pretty good, but unfortunately I just don't come across their beers all that often. But I did get quite lucky recently and I managed to find two things from them that I think will be pretty special, so keep an eye out for the other video coming up a little bit later on. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I haven't tried from this brewery before, if memory serves me correctly. It's one that I've heard they do very, very well though, and it is a style that I quite enjoy in fact. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to head to England. We are going to go to the kind of London area, but to be specific, we're going to go out to the west of London to a little place called Finchampstead in Berkshire, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Siren craft brewery. So this particular beer is called All Night Long. It comes in at 10.2% ABV, and this one is a bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout. So yeah, this is one of two big beers that I bought from Siren quite recently. This is one that I got from Angry Beer in Mongkok in Kowloon here in the Hong Kong SAR. And yeah, it was a nice little surprise to find something from Siren. I think the last beer I reviewed from these guys was the Maiden Barley Wine back in maybe 2021, 2022. I honestly can't remember, but yeah, I would love to review the Siren beers a little bit more often in fact, but this is one that I saw and it just kind of caught my eye, so I thought why not. But yeah, definitely cool to return to these guys, and I think this one will be a little bit of a beast. It is certainly highly rated, and I don't think I've tried an Imperial Stout from these guys, let alone a barrel-aged one. So let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. The All Night Long 10.2% bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout from Siren in Finchampstead, Berkshire, England. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Siren Craft Brewery before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the English playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Siren Craft Brewery for the first time in a good wee while. So, Siren Craft Brewery was founded back in 2012 by Darren Anley in Finchampstead in Berkshire. In England, you'll find it a little bit to the kind of southeast of Reading and southwest-ish of London. But he had previously been working in the tech industry, but he was also an avid home brewer on the side, and he worked on most of his recipes, or a good number of his recipes, prior to establishing the brewery. So the initial beers were completed and he was happy with them in about 2010, but they were only bottled in 2013, with the first beer in the bottle being the Maiden Barley Wine, which I do recommend that you try. But the brewery is named after the Sirens in Greek mythology, who were women or winged creatures whose singing lured unwary sailors onto the rocks. and their beers, the maiden beer, the beers that bear this name, were part of the original core range. But since foundation, this brewery has grown very steadily. They've become very, very well respected. They've increased their range and their brewing capacity over the years as well. And in 2014, they had to add a new bottling line, and more recently, they converted to cans as well. It's only a small portion of their beers that are bottled these days. But in the early days, Darren hired the American Ryan Whitter Merrithew as his brewer. He's now back in the US as of 2016, but then another American called Kyle Larson came in charge and was there until 2019, and at this point he was succeeded by the Englishman Sean Knight, who is still in place today. So Siren have had 3 different head brewers. But in February of 2024, they announced that they plan to open a new flagship bar in Reading at the Station Hill development in the city, and that opened in May of 2024 as well. It's got 30 taps, and they managed to get crowdfunding to help them fund this. They raised about £270,000 for this, which is pretty impressive for a craft brewery, I have to say. But as of October 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys are producing around 20,000 hectolitres or 2 million litres of beer per year, and they've been producing beers quite prolifically over the years. They've done about 600 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, so I think that works out as something in the region of like a beer every 2 weeks or so. They've got their tap yard bar right next to the brewery as well, and this has also been open since December 2017. But yeah, like I said to you, over the years these guys have become very, very well respected. I've had quite a few nice beers from them over the years as well, and they are definitely worth checking out if you happen to come across some of the stuff. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Siren Craft Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a wee look at the beer itself. So yeah, the artwork on this one is pretty kind of straightforward there. You can see the Leviathan holding the barrel in the artwork there, which I think is quite nice if the camera will focus on it. So yeah, I do like the kind of nautical theme with this one. You can see the siren on the bottle cap there too, and it tells you a wee bit about the beer on the back. So this one says, a classy, luxurious Imperial Stout blended from some of our best bourbon barrels. Rich coffee and sweet maple notes lace the base flavours of dark chocolate, caramel and vanilla with lasting spirit character and balancing tannins. So yeah, it does sound very nice. There you can see the kind of, on the back of the bottle there, you can see the kind of full Siren Craft Brewery symbol. But yeah, 375 milliliter this one. I paid 120 Hong Kong dollars for this, so that translates to about 11 or 12 British pounds. Maybe about 13 euros, 14 or 15 dollars American, something like that. But yeah, for an import beer, and especially a bottled bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout, that's not bad, to be honest with you. But yeah, all night long, 10.2% bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout from the wonderful Siren Brewery. It says the barrels used in this one are Jim Beam Woodford Reserve and then just standard bourbon. So yeah, I think this should be pretty damn nice actually. Let's open it up and see what we've got. So, nice little bit of smoke on the opening there, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. I have to say, I'm very curious about this one. No sediment at the bottom of the bottle, that's quite interesting. I should point out as well that this beer does contain coffee and maple wood as well, so that should make it quite interesting. Coffee is one of my favourite adjuncts to put into Imperial Stouts, of course. But before the head disappears on this one, you can see that it's poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say medium to dark, that's not too dark, medium tan head on this one. If I bring it up to the camera there, you can see, it's not going to focus actually, there you go. You can see some kind of medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, but it gets a little bit more foamy the further up that you go. But yeah, it looks pretty damn nice, this one. As you can see, lovely dark ebony rosewood colour, which is exactly what you would expect from an Imperial Stout. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But when it comes to black beers like Imperial Porters and Imperial Stouts, you don't often have to care about that. Like, for example, the coffee beans that have gone into this one are not going to affect the colour all that much. But you can see the head has just faded away to be a very kind of thin, foamy layer, and then you've got that nice kind of ring around the edge of the glass there, which looks good. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, a few little bubbles going up toward the surface of the liquid. But all in all, it looks pretty nice. If we shine the light through this one, it's got a little bit of that kind of Coca-Cola, Pepsi sort of colour to it. When you put the light through it, you've got that wee bit of, you know, it's maybe like dark chestnut is another way to describe it. But yeah, the way it goes together is really, really nice. But yeah, all in all, this appearance of this one is pretty much what you would expect from the Imperial Stout style. So yeah, let's go on and have a wee look at the aroma of this one. I'm very curious to explore this a little bit more. So yeah, let's do it. Oh, that's actually quite heavy on the coffee, I have to say that. But if you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply, you get exactly what you expect from a barrel-aged Imperial Stout. It's a lot smoother and a lot more kind of almost creamy in a way. So yeah, it's like an impact aroma of coffee, and then once your nose adjusts to that and gets past it, it's all about yeah, it's all about the it's all about the kind of barrel and things. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that, I have to admit. Very, very happy with that. So gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, good stuff. So where do we start with this then? You know, as I've often said, with Imperial Stouts, there are a few ways you can play with this style. You can do a double mash, which is going to give you a big sticky mouthfeel. You can do a longer wort boil, which is going to give you more kind of complex, chewy, sort of brown sugary flavours. You can barrel age them as well, which is where you're going to sacrifice a bit of the mouthfeel and get more infused flavours from the barrel. You can add adjuncts into them as well, which is going to do different things. So yeah, those are the ways you can play with Imperial Stouts. And when it comes to coffee beans, like I say, these are a very interesting adjunct, because they're pretty much as diverse as hops, because you've got different varieties of bean in the first instance. You can grow different beans in different parts of the world, and then you've got different soil profiles and water profiles and things like that too, which obviously are going to affect the flavours that you get. Then it's all about the altitude at which you grow the coffee as well, the maso, the metres above sea level, and the higher the altitude, basically, the more floral, aromatic and kind of fruity flavours you get from your coffee, apparently. So it's a very interesting adjunct to play with. But yeah, this beer strikes me as being like a kind of old school RIS with the coffee in it, but you can really smell that smooth bourbon barrel effect in this one as well. This is going to be really interesting. But now that we've gotten through the technicalities, let's actually focus on the aroma of the beer. So yeah, aroma wise, it's really, really nice. It's what you'd expect. There's nothing surprising about this, but it's just really, really damn good. I mean, after 4,000 beer reviews, there's not much that's going to surprise you. So the backbone of the beer, as you would expect, you've got this lovely smooth American oak barrel with this one. As I've said before, European oak and American oak are different species of tree. The European oak gives you a more kind of dry kind of character to it, and quite a little bit of vanilla, whereas the American oak is a little bit more smooth almost, and gives you a wee bit more of the spirit. So you get that lovely smooth American oak in here. There is a little touch of vanilla to it. You can smell the bourbon spirit coming out of this beer too. But yeah, the way yeah, the way that it goes together is really, it's really quite nice in that. As I say, I've never really been so big on bourbons because being Scottish, you just don't need to, in all honesty. But the bourbon that comes out of this one's actually quite sweet, and the brown sugar has almost got a little bit of toastiness to it. So yeah, you've got your oak barrel, your vanilla in there, the the little bit of toasty brown sugar. It's a wee bit oily in a sense too, and then you actually start to get the components of the beer. So for me, you can smell like a little bit of a toasty bread crust coming out of this one, but not overly aggressive in a way. So yeah, you've got that lovely kind of toasty, bread crusty character coming out of the beer. Then there's a little bit of woodiness to that, of course. You've got like a sort of rye bready character coming out of this one, some brown bread as well. Within those, there's a little bit of nuttiness. So you've got rye bread, brown bread, toasty well-fire bread crust, wee bit of nuttiness in there. There is a degree of kind of like, there's like a sort of chocolate brownie, sponge cake, maybe, yeah, more of a brownie than a sponge cake, in honesty, because it's quite dense. So yeah, there's a sort of big chocolate brownie type character coming out of this one too. But yeah, big chocolate, oily brownie kind of character in there. And yeah, the way that goes together is really nice. Yeah, big, thick, oily chocolate brownie, nutty sort of character to it as well. And then, yeah, you have this, yeah, you've got this sort of mix of chocolate and brown sugar sitting above that. So the chocolate in this one is maybe around a 70% cocoa chocolate. It doesn't come across as being like overly dark and, you know, big and punchy in that way. But yeah, I think about 70% cocoa chocolate in this one, maybe 60% is fair. So yeah, you've got that lovely big chocolatey note coming out of the beer. On top of that, you start to get some of the leathery brown sugars, and the level of leatheriness that you get out of this one makes me think maybe they've done a longer wort boil with this. But yeah, there's treacle and molasses in there. There's not too much in the way of like a sweet caramel or biscuit. It is more treacle molasses and more kind of leathery brown sugars. And let's say you've got the nuttiness and the chocolatey kind of characters sitting underneath that. So yeah, the way that it goes together, I think, is really nice in this one. On the coffee side of things, the coffee sits a little bit further back in the nose, and it's quite interesting because it does have a fair little bit of earthiness to it, but I find it quite aromatic, pardon me, and it's also got a little bit of like figgy and blackcurranty type character to it as well. So these are all things to bear in mind. Yeah, aroma wise though, the coffee kind of becomes more and more pungent the more that you smell of the beer. But again, like the wood kind of, you've got a really nice balance there between the kind of more aggressive roasty nature of the coffee and the smoothness of the bourbon barrel wood and the spirit in there. So that's really nice too. At the back of the nose, you've got a little bit of yeastiness coming out of this one, and it's a mix of I would say brown bread and rye bread. It's somewhere in the middle there. So yeah, that's quite interesting. I'm curious to see how all of this comes out in the flavour of the beer. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, remember that Imperial Stouts are not the most hop-forward style of beer in the first place, but then this thing has been barrel-aged, so the hoppy character will have dropped out of it to a degree anyway. But yeah, you still get some hoppy characters out of this one. There's a good little bit of earthiness in there. There's a nice little bit of kind of herbal and woody, more woody actually. You've got that earthiness, you've got that woodiness, a little bit of floral note, and a wee bit of a more kind of grassy character coming out of this one too. So yeah, the green component in this one is definitely there. On the fruity side of things, when you sugar the beer up, you get a little bit of sharpness out of this one, so maybe a little bit of a raisiny sharpness for sure. But there's juicy plum in there. There is a little bit of a datey, figgy kind of note underneath. And I'm getting, yeah, black currants. I don't know if I'd go as far as blackberries, But yeah, these are all things that you'd kind of expect from the style. The other thing this one said that it had in it was maple wood. So maybe that's what's given the wood some of the sweetness that it has. Quite curious about that. But yeah, aroma wise, this one's really quite interesting. A wee bit different to the other Imperial stouts that I've had in recent times. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time for us to try this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the All Night Long, a 10.2% bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout from Siren Craft Brewery in Finchampstead, Berkshire in England. I'm really curious about this. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, and cheers. Ooh. That is very, very good. I wouldn't expect anything less of Siren, because yeah, I know how good these guys are, how highly these guys are regarded. But that is lovely. It's interesting. It's a very fruity. I find that to be quite a fruity Imperial Stout. And it gives you all the other things that you'd expect into the aftertaste. So yeah, for me, quite red fruity in the beginning. But then yeah, the bourbon barrel comes out, the spirit, the malty base, the yeastiness, all of that, the woodiness is great. Really, really nice beer, this one. So big thumbs up to Siren for this. This is pretty damn awesome, I have to say. Yeah, very happy with that. So let's just break it down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. Gives you everything you'd want from the style though, but we're going to start on that middle third of the palate and just go from there as we always do. So, the backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely, you've got that lovely kind of smooth American oaky character coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely smooth American oaky character in there. Nice little bit of vanilla further forward on the middle third of your palate, but then the bourbon spirit layer in this one is quite nice. Like I say, it's quite a bright bourbon character that comes out of this, which I'm impressed with. So yeah, you've got that you've got that smooth American oak in there, a little bit of vanilla, the nice quite bright bourbon spirit, and then you start to get the actual layers of the stout itself. So yeah, roasty toasty, kind of slightly well-fired bread crust in there, but not too aggressive, I will point that out. Above that spirit layer, you've got that roasty toasty well-fired bread crust, then it's a sort of like rye bready layer that comes out, then a more wholemeal brown bready layer, then above that you've got like a slightly drier chocolate brownie type character coming out of this one. So it's very layered, but within the chocolate brownie type character you have this more nutty sort of note to it. So yeah, it's got this kind of nutty aftertaste to it, which I do quite like. So yeah, the way that that goes together is quite interesting. But above the chocolate brownie, there's a little bit more of an almost like brandy soaked cake. It's almost a little bit more like a kind of Christmas pudding, and I know Christmas pudding pretty well because my dad loves it and he always gets it for his birthday in February, so you know, we get kind of double helpings of Christmas pudding. But yeah, the way that that goes together is really nice. Yeah, you've got the chocolate brownie layer, then an almost like Christmas puddingy layer. Then above that you start to get the chocolate. So like further back on that middle third of your palette, it's like a kind of 60 or 70% cocoa chocolate. Then as you come further forward, it sort of mellows out a wee bit, and yeah, it mellows out a little bit and gives you more of a it gives you a little bit more of a kind of maybe 40-50% cocoa chocolate further forward. Yeah. But yeah, well, the way that goes together is really nice. The chocolatey layer is quite nice, and it's quite sweet. I think the chocolate actually has a little bit of fruitiness to it as well, like a kind of blackcurranty, blackberry sort of thing, in fact. But yeah, above the chocolatey layer you start to get the brown sugar, so you've got a more leathery brown sugar coming out of this one. So yeah, you've got a sort of leathery brown sugary base, and then on top of that you get the kind of circle where you've got the more treacle molasses type notes coming out of the beer. So yeah, I do really like how that pieces together. So yeah, lovely kind of treacle molassesy notes in there, and then yeah, the kind of sweet caramel in the middle of the palette. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together, I think, is really, really nice. Yeah. So for me, the dead centre of the palette, yeah, treacle molasses, it's quite sweet. Then a bit more of a sweet caramel around that, and then yeah, the leathery brown sugars underneath. Don't get too much in the way of toasty brown sugar until you go into the aftertaste either. But I think that covers the middle third of your palette in this one, and that obviously is where the complexity of this beer really lies. So yeah, let's go to the back third of your palette then. As I've often said, the back third of your palette is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palette, just at different intensities. But do remember that generally speaking, sweeter flavours will come out further forward on the palette, more dry and bitter flavours will come out further back. But yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palette, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. So you've got the rye bread in the base, the wholemeal brown bread, and then the more kind of browny, cakey layers on top of that. But within that kind of bready part of the beer, I think that's where the coffee is kind of lying. So the coffee for me, like I said earlier, it's kind of a smooth, earthy sort of roast. Yeah. So you've got that kind of smooth, earthy sort of roast coming out of this one, and it's yeah, you've got that lovely sort of coffee character to it as well. So yeah, lovely, smooth, earthy coffee kind of character to it. And I would say that it's quite aromatic. I mean, you do get a little bit more aromaticity out of it into the aftertaste, but there's also a wee bit of like a figgy note to the coffee too, which is quite interesting. But as I say, the coffee sits in that kind of border region and then spreads a little bit into the back third of the palette. So that's quite quirky as well, just the way all of that goes together. But let's focus on that back third of your palette then. So in the base, you can feel that nice, smooth kind of barrel coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely smooth sort of barrel note in it. Then you've got the bourbon spirit again, which is a little bit drier, and then yeah, you've got the rye bready layer, which is a little bit lighter, taller, more airy and drier. Above that you've got the kind of wholemeal brown bready character, which is a little bit lighter, airier and more drier. Then you've got it's more like a kind of chocolate sponge rather than a chocolate brownie on the back third of your palette, and within that you're getting some of the kind of nutty and coffee notes, and then above that you're getting the more kind of Christmas puddingy sort of note out of the beer as well. So yeah, the way that all of that kind of pieces together, I think, is really nice. So that's your multi layers of the back third of your palette. But yeah, you can feel some of the chocolatey aspects and the drier aspects of the brown sugar just kind of creeping over the top of that one into the aftertaste as well. So yeah, I like that about the beer, but then above everything else you've got the yeasty side of the beer on the top of the back third of the palate. So let's have a wee look at that. But the more that you drink of this, the more the kind of fruity, phenol-y kind of thing you get out of it. But as I say, it's a beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. So the yeasty side of the beer for me, at its core, it's kind of like an oily, Christmas puddingy, chocolate brownie sort of mix. As you move further out from that, it becomes a little bit more like a sort of brandy-soaked rye bread, and then the very edge of it is a kind of more toasty, bready kind of character. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together in this one, I think, is really quite nice. I like that. So that gets a big thumbs up for me. The yeasty side of this beer, especially into the aftertaste, and the way that mixes with the coffee and the kind of nutty undertones of the beer, is really, really damn nice. So yeah, definitely back third of the palate you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, really do like how that pieces together. On the hoppy side of things then, let's move on to that. In the back corners of the palate, you've got that nice little bit of earthiness in there, and then as you move further forward, it's got a little bit of a more kind of woody quality to it. So you've got the earthiness in there, the woodiness, then as you move further forward, it's a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic, and then as you go round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit more grassy and sort of light in a sense. But obviously with this being barley aged, as I said earlier, a lot of the fruity character will have dropped out of it in a way. But let's focus on that front third of your palate then. So yeah, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the kind of rye bread in the base, the brown bread in the middle, and some of the more kind of chocolate spongy cakey characters on top. But then yeah, the base of that front third of your palate, you've got the nice brown bready characters. You've got the wood there on the base, sorry, then you've got the spirit layer, the rye bread, the brown bread, and then yeah, the kind of more chocolate spongy character. And then above that you get the nice kind of oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that fruity side of things then, just to round off the flavour section of the video. So yeah, flavour wise, this beer is really, really nice on the fruity side of things. It's great actually. It's not like, it has a little touch of the raisiny sharpness that I was picking up in the aroma, but it's actually a little bit more kind of juicy in a way than that. So if you go to the back of that oily bubble that I was talking about, you've got the kind of raisin sitting on top. Then as you go down from that, you've got lovely big juicy plums. There's maybe a little bit of a prune underneath that, and maybe there's a wee bit within that border region of front third and middle third of your palate. You've maybe got a little bit of that phenolic-y, Christmas puddingy sort of thing in there. But yeah, raisins, plums, a little bit of prune. You've got dates in there, and as you move further forward from that, there's a lovely big juicy figgy character as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate. But then yeah, as you go into the front half of the front third of your tongue, it's got a little bit more of a kind of black curranty base, and then a sharper blackberry on top of it. So yeah, I do really like how all of that kind of pieces together, if you like. So yeah, all in all, the way that everything just pieces together in this one, I think is very, very nice. But yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me. The fruity side of this beer is lovely. It's one of these beers where just everything kind of sinks together almost perfectly. But Siren, I've heard, are very good when it comes to their barrel program. So it's a pleasant surprise, this one, but not a surprising surprise, if we can call it that. That's probably the best way to express it. But yeah, really nice stuff, this one. It's also got lactose in it as well, which is kind of probably contributing to the smoothness of the beer quite a wee bit. But yeah, I'm very happy with this one. Let's just summarise it at that. So that's everything we need to say about the flavour of the beer. Let's round off with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So, pardon me, for me, this beer is definitely, definitely full-bodied, maybe mid-range full-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth in this one. It's got a lovely big sort of creamy mouthfeel to it. The lactose obviously is going to help with that. IBU wise, I mean, this has probably got 30 or 40 IBUs to it. I don't really find this one overly bitter, in all honesty. But, you know, I'll say it's 30 or 40 IBUs and that I'll get it wrong. My IBU counts are my weakest point when it comes to beer reviewing. But yeah, I'm not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness, but from the malty side of things, you've got the lovely dryness from the barrel and the base, and the spirit above that, which is kind of sweet. The smoothness in the middle, but it's a kind of dry sweetness, if you like. And then on the top of the malt base, you've got that more intense sweetness. But again, it's kind of quite dry, but lovely big, quite juicy and wet fruitiness out of this beer. And yeah, you've just got that little bit hoppy character on the edge of your palate. But all in all, beautiful, beautiful Imperial Stout, this one, and I've really enjoyed it. It's great, so I need to look forward. I need to keep an eye out for more of these barrel-aged beers from Siren. But yeah, this was the All Night Long, a 10.2% Imperial coffee stout, bourbon barrel-aged, from Siren Craft Brewery in Finchampstead, Berkshire, England. So yeah, my first review from these guys in about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years if I'm not mistaken. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Siren Craft Brewery as well. And we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the near future. But very impressed with this one, and I'm looking forward to the other one I've got from this series as well, so keep your eyes peeled. Check out my social media, check out Siren's social media, and I'll catch you guys in another review very, very soon. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.